Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. I thought I would do a series on Jordan Peterson's new book here that he just wrote called Beyond Order. Since it just recently came out, I believe it was less than a month ago. So I decided that I'm going to do a series about every one of the 12 rules that are in this book. And here's a picture I found of angry Jordan Peterson, which I thought was really funny. So I thought that, and Jordan Peterson, for those of you who don't know, I'm sure pretty much every one of you who watches this already does, but he's a Canadian clinical psychologist who, I think he's still technically on leave from the University of Toronto because he got really popular with being an internet celebrity and being big on YouTube and podcasts and whatnot. And so I guess he, obviously was able to be much more financially successful that way rather than the traditional university route. And then, of course, a lot of people who are fans of his know that over the past few years or so, he's gone through a lot of personal struggles. Like his wife was dying of cancer, and she's luckily okay now, and he was dealing with withdrawal from addiction to benzodiazepines that he was taking for depression, and he's apparently recovering now too. I've talked about Jordan Peterson before a whole lot on my channel, so if those of you who watch this have seen my channel before, you know that I'm very critical of him, but I don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. I think that he makes a lot of errors and gets a lot of facts wrong about philosophy, religion, politics, and history, and he kind of oversimplifies things, like when he talks about Judeo-Christian culture and how it was the foundation of Western civilization, and he makes these claims sometimes that, like, for example, there are no atheists, which I find offensive as an atheist myself. And the main thing that bothers me that I talk about on my channel the most is kind of like a pedantic, nitpicky thing, but he uses this term postmodernism, or sometimes postmodern neo-Marxism, to describe people like Derrida and Foucault, whose books he clearly hasn't even fucking read, because he interprets their works totally backwards and jumps to conclusions that they never explicitly say or even imply. But anyway, I wanted to do a review of this book, and like I said, so this is his newest book here that I will show you a picture of as well, and that is his book Beyond Order. And like I was saying, and this is his third book, and like I was saying before, I'm going to go through all three of each of the 12 rules in the book, and it's basically, you can see here, it's basically a sequel to his first book called 12 Rules for Life. So I guess, like, 12 rules was not enough, so we need more rules. So how many are there going to be eventually? Like 100? Who knows? You could just keep on endlessly milking this cow, so to speak, and getting more and more money for coming up with more and more rules. So anyway, I thought I wanted to review this because I'm sort of like neutral on Jordan Peterson, because I forgot to add before that even though I'm critical of a lot of what he talks about, I think that he's helped a lot of people, and he does have some good advice and profound wisdom sometimes, even though it's really fucking obvious for the most part. Anyway, this book is 12 Rules for Life here. This is basically the one that Beyond Order is a sequel to, and this is actually his third book, though, because he wrote a more academic book earlier, which I actually like more, and that was his first book, called Maps of Meaning, which I'll show you a picture of here too. And I liked this one more because it was more academic, but it's not just because I like academic books. I do love reading academic philosophy and learning about how complex how complex ideas can be explained by philosophers like Foucault, Derrida, Heidegger, Hegel, etc. And so I like this book, his first book here, Maps of Meaning, because especially also because he does more of what he does in his earlier psychology lectures, and those are all on YouTube, of course. Where he kind of does comparative religion. He compares different religions and the archetypes within different religions, kind of more like what Carl Jung did, who he tries to imitate, but like explicitly, and he just kind of copies this archetype idea. And Carl Jung is pretty cool, but he did more of that, and he's drifted away from that more recently. In Maps of Meaning, he talks about different religions and different archetypes and different religions and the balance of chaos and order and masculine and feminine and those sorts of topics. But then in his more recent books, like Beyond Order and especially in 12 Rules of Life, he gets all like uber Christian and like puritanical, and it just gets it's just boring for me for the most part, because he's all like, bro, you know how awesome Christianity is? It's pretty fucking awesome. But so anyway, I'll get to his first rule here, which is rule 1, and like I said, there are 12 rules, so I'm going to do a video for each of these. Rule 1 is do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or creative achievement. And this is interesting because what I expected going into this chapter was more of what he's said about it before, which is, social institutions are awesome, bro. Don't idly threaten social institutions like government, this beautiful government, the shining city on the hill. And so he has argued many times before about, being careful when we criticize government, and, government and religion and churches and all that shit built Western society, so we have to have a lot of respect for them, and you shouldn't criticize them, which is what the so-called postmodernists do, even though the critical race theorists, social justice warrior people he talks about have fucking nothing at all to do with postmodernism. But I agree that they're stupid too. But anyway, to get off of that tangent, he talks about, the importance of churches and government for maintaining the cultural and moral structure of society, basically. If I were to attempt to steel man that argument. And, like churches like this, because they provide a sense of community. And he doesn't really talk about that very much, like I said. It would be interesting if he talked about that a little bit more in this rule, but I think he also doesn't really talk about the other aspect of this that's in the rule itself, which is creative achievement. He talks about it a little bit, but he doesn't talk about it a whole lot. And I found some interesting pictures here, like see this person with creativity colorfully coming out of them. And then this is an interesting one of Jordan Peterson and all those cool creative colors basically coming out of his head and bursting out of him. And then this is a nice, beautiful piece of artwork here. And I think that, so basically, like I said, he doesn't talk about creativity and social institutions that much in this rule. I respect the sentiment of the rule. He basically just says he like does what he usually does, which is evangelizing about Jesus, and he relates it to that, and he talks about relationships. And I guess you could say that he he relates this back to social institutions like churches and governments, in that when more people used to go to them, they used to form more relationships more easily and with more people that way. So you could say that, but he often does, he makes it about Christianity, which he does with like half of his rules. But oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I like this book Beyond Order more than 12 Rules for Life personally, because I only agreed with maybe 2 of the rules in 12 Rules for Life, but I like about half of the rules in this one. So even though I'm highly critical of him, I expect the sentiment of this rule that he gets into. And I found a funny picture of Jesus here with sunglasses and drinking and smoking a joint. And oh, and there's that picture of the Jesus from the Dogma movie directed by Kevin Smith there too. So he basically, anyway, Jordan Peterson makes this first rule mostly about how, relationships are important because Jesus, bro. And like I said, I like the sentiment of this rule, but since I personally am an atheist, I would have at least appreciated if he had been honest about that. I have no problem with admiring Jesus, because Jesus was an admirable character, whether you're religious or not, in my opinion. But if he had been more honest about that, and called the rule something different, I thought that it would have been way more fucking intellectually honest of him. But anyway, so relationships are real. Like I said, though, I do like the sentiment of the rule. Relationships, that's a good image for that there. Relationships are certainly important. And basically, it's pretty much true that everyone needs to have good relationships, like mutually altruistic relationships with good friends and family members who you trust and love, right? Because this is really important for us having good mental health. And one of the things that Jordan Peterson talks about that I do appreciate is that he kind of talks about this. He has a few times, but he doesn't center on this too much lately. He gets like obsessed and puritanical about responsibility, in my opinion. But I think that he has pointed out before that good relationships are really important for your mental health. And if you think life is rough, pick up some more responsibility, bro, because you don't even know how hard life can even be, man. So I hate it when he gets like all that way. But yeah, like I said, relationships are certainly important. And like I said, that's basically my summation of this rule for the most part. Yeah, I agree with the sentiment of the rule that relationships with good friends and family members who you trust and love are very important for mental health and even for the structure of society, because the structure of society depends on that. So that makes sense to me. I just wished like he wouldn't get into this like evangelizing about Christianity, because like I said, Jesus was an admirable character, even if he didn't exist, which I do think he did exist. I'm not one of those atheists who think that he didn't even exist. He was an admirable character, and he was a figure of history, but I'm not Christian, and plenty of people are not Christian. And like I said, I have no problem with people being Christian and talking about that in their books, but you should be more intellectually honest about it. So he does that, and he gets carried away with other rules, like gets all fucking gets a boner about responsibility, like he often does, and he gets carried away with evangelizing his own worldview instead of trying to apply what he's learned to basically be the most universal lessons that can apply to everyone, or at least as many people as possible. But yeah, anyway, I just think he could be more clear with that, and he could be less ideological and less judgmental and research the things that he spouts more thoroughly than he often does. But like I said, I like the sentiment of this rule. I just wish he had phrased it and explained it differently and called the rule something different. And I do like some of the other rules in this book. I like about half of them. Half of them are kind of fucking dumb, in my opinion. But anyway, I'll keep on reviewing each of these rules. Look forward for me doing each of the other 12 rules. And yeah, so I hope you guys appreciated this video. I'm kind of neutral on this rule in particular. I have more objectionable opinions to some of his other rules and more favorable interpretations of his other rules. So look forward to that. And thanks to those of you who watch this. Thanks a lot to those of you who subscribe to my channel. Please do that if you haven't done so already, to look forward to these next book reviews and many other videos. Please click that bell to be notified when I come out with more videos, and give me money on Patreon if you want to. I really appreciate that. I'll put the link for my Patreon page in the description of this video, as I always do. And look forward to all sorts of other videos that I'm doing. Got a podcast on eugenics with my friend Chris from my movie chats next week, probably. And also that week, I'll probably do another theological chat with a few of my Christian friends and a few of my atheist street epistemologist friends, and plenty of other videos and podcasts coming up. And yeah, so like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And check out people regardless of how much you agree or disagree with them. Try to have some intellectual curiosity. I like to be an intellectual slut. I highly advocate for being an intellectual slut. And even if you disagree with someone's opinions, if you actually entertain them and investigate them thoroughly, you often find that you agree with them more than you thought you did, or maybe you find out you agree with them less than you did. You'll just have a more accurate interpretation of what they actually said. So yeah, read lots of different books by lots of people who think differently, and spread the love and funk and intellectual curiosity and being an intellectual slut everywhere. And thanks again, everyone, and adios until next time.